Welcome back to another episode of YouTube's Secret Shame, the Bear Bard Tales. It is I, the Bear of Legend, known infamously as, is that a freaking talking bear? Now, have you ever thought to yourself, I love listening to these RPG horror stories from that beautiful Bear Bard, but sometimes I wish he would just find a story so much of a train wreck that it's essentially an episode of Jerry Springer. Well, fear not, my young cubs, because today I have truly found that story for you. Before I start the story, I just want to thank everyone who entered the 100 subs contest for that awesome metal die set. The winner was selected, and it's this person. Congrats! I'm recording this before the due date, so I don't have the winner's name yet, but it should be on the screen. I should have already reached out to you and figured out details for getting them over to you. It was actually a ton of fun for me seeing your answers in the comments. If you guys like this, maybe we can do something similar at 1,000 subs, so let's get there. Now, if you guys like this type of content, make sure to give this channel a sub. Every sub I get brings me one step closer to having a family so they can all be murdered and I can start my own edgelord journey. For now, let's get to this beautiful disaster of a story titled, When the Princess Has Discord ADMs as Their White Knights. Well, this isn't technically an RPG horror story, but the whole fiasco happened because of an RPG, so I believe this counts. Names have been altered, but here are the main players. Me, yours truly. Dawn, my friend. Heather, the princess in question. Darling, Dawn and Heather's target. Arthur and Lancelot, ADMs of the server I was in. So, I know Dawn for quite some time. She's an online friend, and despite having a bit of an age gap, we're good friends. We sort of have a big bro, small sis relationship because she relies on me a lot for guiding and emotional support. We've played some RPs and RPGs here and there over the years. I've been stuck into the position to forever DM of her and our inner circle of online friends. Turns out, another guy she knew, Darling, not only introduced her to voice TTRPG, but is also part of a fan dub group. So she excitedly invited me to a server he's a part of for me to participate in a campaign he was planning. That's when I encountered Heather once more. Yes, I knew Heather beforehand, and she even played under me as a DM for a little while. But let's just say we didn't get along at all because she was way too confrontational, judgmental, and can't separate character from person. Due to a big discussion, she was banned from mine and Dawn's official server. But I was willing to let it slide and play with her. After all, I myself know when to separate character from person. And also, I was excited to be a player after the bitter experience that was my Naruto experience, the little ninja that couldn't. Turns out, it wasn't meant to be. I literally only played one session, 2 if counting my session 0. Why? Well, Dawn and Heather were so into Darling's narration and character that they were both trying to involve themselves romantically with him, and this got heated. To be young again and petty when it comes to love affairs. This Mexican soap opera love triangle ended in one of the aforementioned inner circle friend of both us and Dawn to voice his disapproval of this honestly ridiculous fight. And guess what happened? Heather told this to a third party, and said third party basically threatened to kill Dawn, and Heather didn't object to this whatsoever. Heather also provided and admittedly sent a DDoS to this friend who dared to defy her love. He only escaped because he was on the street at the time and didn't verify the file. And that Darling learned this and convinced her to delete the DDoS. So now that she's clearly crossed the line, this is where she's called out for this extreme and downright criminal behavior, is kicked from the server, and everyone clapped, right? Remember the title of the tale? No, Darling and even Dawn forgave her because she's in a bad spot right now and is sorry for what she's done. But since I heavily criticized Heather during the discussion and her actions after that, she went to Darling when I wasn't online and convinced him to kill off my character between sessions and without having my consent or even telling me beforehand. The idiot that is me found strange they started a session without calling me in. That's why I found out. I swear, Heather proudly declared this was my idea and even chuckled a little. And although Darling was later sorry for what he had done, he still plays and talks regularly to Heather. So both of us agree to never play again as long as she's there. All was well for around 2 weeks when suddenly Dawn was banned from the server for harassment. I honestly thought this was strange and did a little investigation. The reason to why is that in a call that happened almost a month prior, a guy showed a photo of himself. Dawn found him so hot that in her words, I'd gladly sit in your face. Paraphrasing, but the equivalent in English is that. She immediately realized what she had done and profusely apologized. And guess what? The person at the time accepted the apology and shrugged it off. It was fine, and she didn't commit any offenses in the meantime. When I showed this to Lancelot in his DMs, who was the one to do the ban, he said, "F it and f her. She committed a crime and is a criminal. The victim may have forgiven her, but I don't. If she did this once, she'll do it again." So the request to unban her was denied with prejudice. I also consulted this with Arthur in his DMs, since he's the head ADM. But he also was unmoved because, in his words, Don has been spreading lies about Heather. That girl has serious problems. She can be sued for slander and defamation. I never liked that girl, and honestly, I'm glad she was kicked. I let the harassment slide because I'm soft, but Lancelot isn't. I know Dawn is in the wrong here and that I may be biased, but her punishment seems severe and sudden for my taste. A few days later, I, in part out of spite for Heather, in part to at least have some justice, from both ends presented a lot of evidence, including a confession from Heather in Dawn and Darling's DMs of the whole death threats and DDoS attack, saying that she is a criminal as well as that if she did this once, she'll do it again. Their reactions? Lancelot was dismissive, saying it could be a bluff and that if it bothered me so much, I should call the police. I then just added, "You want to defend a criminal? Fine. But next time some shit like that happens, don't be surprised." He exploded and said these exact words. "Defend a criminal? Bruh, I'm an ADM. You are not. If I want to ban anyone here, I'll do it. And f it. I have the power, you don't. Just for this shit, you're banned as well. Don't message me ever again." So dramatic. Not that I could, since he not only banned me, but blocked me as well, lol. I sent this outburst to Arthur, having a laugh, and he said, also his exact words, "Boss, I never wanted you in the server in the first place. I only let you in because it's a public server. When I learned you're Dawn's friend, you lost a lot of points for me because I never liked that girl. So if you feel bothered, I'll be more than happy if you leave the server." Honestly, if Lancelot didn't ban me, I'd stay in the server as long as possible just to piss him off. Yes, I'm extremely petty as well. Note, I was never a problem person on the server. The most I did was get into a passionate yet somewhat polite discussion over the new Resident Evil live action series. It looks like shit in my opinion, and that's it. This wasn't that big of a loss since I was in the server more to be part of a TTRPG and get some pointers on how to draw by one of the members. Life is still going as normal. I'll end this tale by saying Discord mods and ADMs by extension have their reputation for a good reason. Oh, ho, ho, right? Nuts! I was waiting for Steve to come out at some point to break it up while the crowd just yelled. So, before this breakdown, I do want to give the standard, potentially unreliable narrator spiel. I know there are a ton of these types of servers with awesome communities that people love, but I feel like there's a whole lot of stories in r/RPG horror stories that come from there as well, and a lot of those have a lot of iffy details, hence the Jerry reference. But for now, all I have to go off is what was written. First, I hate when people can't separate character from player. I know we all sometimes let some of us slip into our characters, but good role players can make a whole character independent from themselves, and what their character does shouldn't always reflect on the person themselves, with obvious exceptions. And so it's sad to see when people ruin their real life relationships over RPG characters. Next, what's up with all these people trying to cultivate real life relationships through TTRPGs? I'm sure some worked, but honestly, I feel like I hear way more horror stories than good stories. And as a side note, the worst thing on earth to fight over is a dude. I promise you, ladies and gents, there is not one dude on this earth that is worth fighting for who isn't named Idris Elba. If you have to fight for him, just pass him up. It's a good rule of thumb for you. Then we get to the real ish, and that's the DDoS attack. I've seen firsthand how damaging this can be for a company with commercial security. To aim that at a normal person is just jacked. I don't care what slight you feel they committed against you. And then you add death threats to it? Come on now. Now, I'm weird. I don't really think, when people say death threats, I don't really, in my head associate it as an actual death threat. This day and age, it's really just, it's showing your childish behavior. And in some cases, I feel like that's when you know you actually made it, is you get your first little death threat. Then, it keeps spiraling from there. You have a dude getting kicked from the game out of pettiness and no one telling him. Then you have homegirl here flirting with a dude in chat. Although I feel like I missed a detail here that made this worse. I mean, yes, her comment was a bit aggressive, but all parties seemed to come out of it fine. I mean, I don't know if there was like another factor that came into it, like, I don't know, he was underage, or maybe he's not interested in women and she knew that. Something that makes this more than what was written. I don't know, it feels a bit washy. And to top it all off, you get the overdramatic comments at the end. It really does feel like abuelas telenovelas, and this is where I get the maybe we're not getting some key details here, or even just some fabrication, especially with him going out of his way to say, hey, I'm not the problem player. When you say that, it always feels kind of sketchy when you go out of your way to put that out, but I'm not going to pass out that kind of judgment here without details. We should all just enjoy this for the bit of drama that it is. Hey, hello, Editing Bearbard here, and I just realized I forgot to get my bear fact of the week in here. So this week's bear fact is the fact that polar bears are actually a special case among bears because they depend on the ocean for food and a place to live. As a result, they are the only bear species to be considered a marine mammal, and they even fall under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. But like staying home sick from school in the 90s, you can only take so much Jerry drama. So I think that's where I'm going to call it a day. I'd like to once again thank you guys for all the support. I really genuinely appreciate all of you, and congrats to our giveaway winner. As always, if you have any thoughts on the story today, go ahead and put them in the comments. I love seeing what you guys think. If you're not yet subscribed, we'd love to have you join our little community, so don't be afraid to hit that sub. And maybe check out some of the other ways of connecting with Bearbard, such as Discord, Reddit, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, check out the Bearbard Tales podcast if that's more your speed. All of our stories here end up there stripped of commentary and put in a nice half-hour podcast format for your consumption. For now, this has been the Bearbard. Stay kind, stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys next time.